glad you could join me today. Today we're going to make pie crust. Lots of people are interested in pie. It's a gluten-free item, but it's almost impossible to make a pie without pie crust. So this recipe is fairly simple. I've got 2.5 cups of gluten-free flour with xanthan gum in this bowl. I have 2 egg yolks. I have 2 teaspoons of white vinegar. I have 1/3 of a cup of cold water and 2/3 of a cup of shortening. And the first thing I'm going to do is sift this flour into my bowl. So it's always best to sift this flour. Just gets the little lumps out, loosens the flour and aerates it a little bit, and as you can see there's nothing left in there, so we're good. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to set this over. I'm going to take my fork and I'm going to beat these 2 eggs. Just beat them a little bit, then you add your vinegar and you add your cold water. And while you're waiting and incorporating your shortening into your flour, you really should keep this mixture in the refrigerator, and then it'll stay nice and cold for you. You get better results if it's cold. So I'll set that fork over there. I'm not going to do that, but I suggest you do. And then I'm going to take this shortening out and I'm going to plop it in the middle of my flour. Now, if you don't have a fancy pie crust maker, you can use fork. I like to use my potato masher. I have a potato masher and I use it for just about everything to do with gluten-free cooking. But if you don't have one, you can just use a fork, and failing not having a fork, as some people don't, you can just use your fingers. Make sure your hands are clean first, of course. There, and I just smash this down, contrary to, you know, all the professional bakers where you have to treat pie crust with great delicacy. I just smash it in there. Now I'm going to show you what this mixture looks like. You're never going to have a fluffy item, you know, that nice brittle crust that people seem to care for. Gluten-free flours don't have the lift that is necessary to do this. But you're going to have a very serviceable and tasty crust. And usually when I make this recipe, I double or triple it and make up little individual servings of it and put it in the freezer so that when I want a pie crust I don't have to go through all this. Then you take your egg, vinegar and water mixture out of the fridge, which I didn't put in there, and pour it into the pie crust mixture. And you stir it around until it's all incorporated. Now I'm going to put my hands right in here because that's what I like to do best at this point. So as you can see, we now have a workable dough. And what I do at this point is I divide it into 2, because it's enough here to make 2 single crusts or 1 double crust. So I just make 2 little balls out of it. Try to make them equal. I rarely make them equal, but I try to. And then you put it in the refrigerator for 10 minutes and let it rest before you try to roll it out. Okay, now I've taken my pie crust back out of the refrigerator. I've got 2 pieces of parchment. One thing that's important to remember, this is gluten-free, and you may have used this rolling pin on regular flour. So what you have to do is make sure that you cover your product with parchment paper or plastic wrap or something so that you don't have any direct contact between your rolling pin and the surface of your dough. Also, this stuff's a little sticky, so it's easier to do it this way. But if you have a brand new rolling pin, that's not an issue. You don't need to do this, but most of us, might have at one time or another used this rolling pin for something else. So I just put a little dusting of gluten-free flour on there, not too much, and then I just squash my dough down. Now I'm just making a crust so you know how to do it, and in future videos we'll do pies and you will already know how to make the crust. And then I just put a little light sprinkling over the top, and I lay my other piece of parchment on here, and then I just roll it out, same as you would normal pie crust. You make it as thick or as thin as you like at your house. I like mine, medium, thick and thin, I guess. Now sometimes, like regular pie crust, it'll, split and do all kinds of fun and exciting things. But if you've made crust before, you understand this. Now in some places you can actually buy gluten-free pie crust in a box that you have to add the shortening and all the rest of the stuff to, which is a little more expensive. But if you don't want to get into making flour mixes or buying them already to do this with, you can just go ahead from there. Now I'm just going to lift this off. I'm going to lay my pie plate upside down. I'm going to flip the whole thing over. And then I'm just going to peel off the parchment paper. And you can use this several times. You can make these in advance and put them in your freezer and just take them out when you want to make a pie, which is usually what I do because I'm awfully lazy and don't like rolling out crust. Then you just trim the edges if you're not going to bake the pie right now. And that's all there is to this crust. Now, our regular fella that tests all these things absolutely refuses to try this non-baked pie crust today. So we're not going to have a pretty ending where, you know, our little guy reaches in and grabs a baked good because it's not baked. But we're going to show you the finished thing at the end anyway. Well, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoy this recipe. The recipe will be in the video description below, and any questions, please leave us a comment.